In this video, we explore the events of 2003, when 37-year-old Sandy Rozzo returned home after working a night shift at a bar. As she pulled into the garage and was about to get out of the car, her boyfriend heard loud pops from the second floor where he was sleeping. He called 911 after going down to the garage and seeing what he saw. There were many possible suspects in the case, which made it hard to solve. It looked like a crime of passion, caused by a strange need to own and control someone. Pinellas Park is a cute city on the edge of Tampa, Florida, that is famous for its beautiful beaches and lush landscapes. There are both wealthy and poor people living in the neighborhood. Though crime does happen in the area, it's usually pretty minor. Drunk driving and auto theft are the most common crimes. But in 2003, something happened here that made people scared. It was Saturday night, the day after July 4th, and people nearby said they heard pops just after 11 o'clock. Since it was the weekend before July 4th, fireworks and other sounds were likely to be heard for a few days. But no one was too worried about the sounds until a resident found out that the pops were not a celebration. Someone named Troy Edwards called 911 to say that he heard what sounded like firecrackers going off. He went outside to find out what was making the noise and saw that the garage door was open. Inside, he saw his girlfriend Sandy bleeding in her car. Rescue workers and detectives quickly arrived at the scene. The car was parked in the garage with Sandy's body inside. There was a lot of blood and broken glass all over the place. She was shot 8 times in different parts of her body, including the top of her head. When the crime scene was first looked at, it was clear that the killer used a .22 caliber gun. Someone who was either waiting for Sandy or following her to her garage seemed to attack her. She was taken to the hospital right away, but she died there. Sandy was left with a daughter who was with her dad when the crime happened. People were shocked when she came home from work to find an ambush set up in her own garage. Detectives didn't think Sandy's death was an accident, even though her purse and wallet were still there. The planned nature of the attack, with multiple gunshots, made it seem more like a personal grudge than a random crime. Because the attack was so violent, it was clear that Sandy herself, not money, was the target. Detectives' main job at the start of the case was to question Sandy's boyfriend Troy. It's common for people close to the victim or who know them well to be believed to be responsible for murder. Because Troy was close to Sandy, he might have known something important. The police couldn't find him when they first tried to talk to him. The police thought it was strange that he had left the scene of the crime. Later, it was found that Troy had gone to the hospital. His behavior was odd, though, since he locked the door before leaving. There were a lot of police officers still doing their jobs, so this action seemed strange. Why did he keep making it impossible to get into the house? What did he want to hide? Detectives tried to find answers to these questions. Detectives called Troy in to question him, even though what he did could have been the reaction of a man who was confused or scared. It was clear that he was upset. He said that Sandy had left for work the last time he saw her. Because their work hours didn't match up, Troy worked during the day and Sandy worked at night. The morning of July 5th, Troy said, he left for work at 5 a.m., while Sandy was still asleep. When he got home at 2 p.m., he and Sandy had a short conversation, and she then went to work as a barmaid at Tampa's popular Green Iguana. She was meant to be done that night around 11 p.m. It was around 11:10 p.m. when Troy thought he heard what sounded like clappers after hearing her car pull up. When he went to the garage to check on Sandy, he found her dead and hurt in many places. She was acting crazy, so he tried to calm her down but failed and called 911. Troy was questioned about his relationship with Sandy. He said that their relationship was romantic and that he loved her very much. He told Sandy how beautiful she was and what a great daughter she had. Even plans to marry Sandy were brought up. When asked about Sandy's possible enemies, Troy told a disturbing story. She told him that Tracy Humphrey would be to blame if something bad happened to her. He said that the man was Sandy's ex-boyfriend and was dangerous because Tracy had beaten Sandy after they broke up. Even though Troy told them about Tracy Humphrey, the police couldn't find her in any criminal databases. This made them doubt Troy's words. Investigators saw cuts on Troy's hands, legs, and feet during the interview. He said that while trying to get Sandy out of the car, he cut himself on broken glass. This made people doubt Troy's honesty and made them think that he might have had something to do with what happened. The reference to Tracy Humphrey seemed like a way to hide who the real bad guy was. But Tracy Humphrey was still a key figure in the case, and Troy could not be ruled out as a suspect either. As detectives looked into Sandy Rozzo's death, they talked to her family and friends to try to piece together the events of her last hours. They asked Sandy about her relationship with Jesse, who is the father of her daughter. There were signs that their relationship was tense, which could have been caused by problems with child custody. Sandy's daughter was living with her father in Alabama when she died. Jesse was giving his daughter money and might have been trying to get sole custody. This made people think he might have been involved in killing Sandy, since child custody battles can sometimes lead to bad behavior. In order to get more information, detectives went to Alabama and talked to Jesse. During the conversation, Jesse said he had nothing to do with Sandy's death. He was taken to the local police station to be questioned by detectives. At the police station, Jesse kept saying that he was innocent. He said that Sandy had been a big part of their daughter's life and that he had no reason to kill their daughter's mother. People asked him where he was on the evening of July 5th, when the crime happened. When Jesse got the call about Sandy's death, he said he was at home watching films with his daughter and her girlfriend that night. The call came around 1 a.m. Investigators got more information, like DNA samples, fingerprints, and Jesse's cell phone records to back up his alibi. It looked like Jesse wasn't in Florida when the crime happened, based on his cell phone records. Police are now looking at the Green Iguana, where Sandy worked the night she was killed, because they no longer think Jesse is guilty. People like going to the Green Iguana pub because it has a lot going on at night. Sandy often hung out with the regulars. To find new clues, police talked to all of her co-workers, especially those who had worked with her on the night of the crime. When Sandy's co-workers learnt what had happened, they were shocked and angry. The news of her death was very upsetting to everyone who knew her. No one else at work saw anything strange in the bar on the night of the incident. Around 10:45 p.m., Sandy left work, and soon after, someone saw her leave the parking lot. On Sandy's last day, investigators put together the order of events by following her from work to her home, which took about 25 minutes. In other words, she should have gotten home around 11:10 p.m. Based on this timeline, it looked like Sandy went home right away after work. Sandy's co-workers were asked about her personal life by the police. Her boyfriend Troy said that their relationship was strong, but her co-workers had a different opinion. They said that Sandy thought of herself as more of Troy's flatmate than his girlfriend at times. Based on this information, Sandy might have thought about ending her relationship with Troy. As it became clear that Troy was telling one story, While Sandy's friends and co-workers were telling another, the detectives turned their attention back to Troy. People who work at the Green Iguana said that Sandy was going to talk to Troy about the possibility of dating other people. It's possible that Troy's feelings were hurt, which made him act badly and hurt Sandy. Sandy was thankful that Troy kept her stable, but it looked like she didn't love him as much as he wanted her to. This love that wasn't returned could have been what led to the crime. A classic example of a crime of passion where the killer thinks, "If I can't have you, no one can." When detectives questioned Troy again, he looked upset but helped with the investigation. There are, however, times when suspects act innocent and fully cooperate with the police to avoid being suspected. Since Troy was now the focus of the investigation, the police worked hard to find any proof that he was connected to Sandy's death. They looked through Troy's car and house carefully, but didn't find any weapons or other items that made them suspicious. The detectives then asked Troy about his relationship with Sandy and told him that her co-workers had given a very bad picture of things. Troy looked shocked when he heard the accusations. He thought their relationship was more serious than it was, and he didn't know how Sandy really felt. Troy insisted that his love for Sandy would never change, even though she may have been planning to leave him. To make sure Troy's story was true, detectives looked at the order of events. Setting a clear deadline was very important. Their records showed that Sandy got home around 11:10 p.m., which matched Troy's account of hearing gunshots, finding Sandy in the garage, and calling 911. Troy's actions seemed like those of a man who had just seen a loved one die in a terrible accident. The police ruled out Troy as a suspect in the crime after a thorough investigation. After that, it looked like the investigation was over. Who else could have been so evil as to do such a horrible thing? What would someone want to do to hurt Sandy? She was just trying to make money and get her life together. Troy found Sandy's folder in his home, which turned out to be an unexpected help for the detectives. Troy was right when he said that the folder held important information. Sandy had written notes in the folder about her upcoming trial against a man she accused of assault and illegal imprisonment. Tim Humphrey was going to be tried in Tampa, and Sandy was going to be a witness against him. The trial was set for August, which was only 1 month after Sandy was killed. Police had already been told by Troy that Sandy's ex-boyfriend's name was Tracy Humphrey. The paperwork in the file showed that his real name was Timothy. This led to important details about him, like his date of birth and other personal information, which were the first clues that helped solve the case. They didn't have any information on Tracy Humphrey, but they did have a lot of information on Timothy Humphrey. More research showed that Timothy Humphrey, who goes by the name Tracy Humphrey, had a disturbing history of attacking women. In fact, he went to prison for 8 years for these crimes. Tracy had taken Sandy hostage, held her captive, and repeatedly forced her to please him over the course of several days. This was the most upsetting thing that was revealed. Because she was scared for her life, Sandy got away. A sheriff's deputy found her naked and beating her. Tracy told her he would kill her if she told anyone about the assault because he was going to jail for it. Sandy was scared, but she was ready to testify against Tracy in court. DNA, photos, and Sandy's testimony were all strong pieces of evidence for the police. In this case, though, Sandy's testimony was the most important thing. The charges would probably be dropped if she couldn't testify. This gave Tracy a strong reason to keep her quiet, which made him the main suspect in the case. In a note she left, Sandy specifically named Tracy as a possible threat, With this new information, detectives were able to find Tracy at a gym in the nearby city of Brandon, where he lived and worked as a personal trainer. Tracy was called Mr. Clean because of his bald head, earring in his ear, and commanding appearance. He was known for being fit and having a strong body. When he talked to the detectives, Tracy seemed shocked to learn that Sandy had been killed, but his evasive behavior made them suspicious. When asked about his relationship with Sandy, Tracy got angry and wouldn't answer any more questions without his lawyer being there. There was no record of Tracy's marriage in the databases, but detectives saw that he was wearing a wedding ring, which meant that he must have been married not long ago. He married a woman named Ashley Laney, it turns out. Ashley was only 20 years old, while Tracy was 39 years old at the time. The police went to Tracy's new wife's house to talk to her in the hopes that she would give them more information. As soon as the police entered the house, they saw that Ashley was becoming tense. She did say, though, that she and Tracy got married on July 4th. It was a strange coincidence that Sandy Rozzo was killed the day after their wedding, July 5th. Florida law says that spouses can't be forced to testify against each other in criminal cases. Detectives were suspicious about when Ashley and Tracy got married because of this. They thought that the timing of the wedding was a strong and troubling sign. She said she didn't know anything about the murder when asked where Tracy was on the night of the murder. Ashley willingly gave police her alibi for the night Sandy Rozzo was killed during her conversation with them. She said that she and Tracy were at home at 11 p.m. on the night of the murder, watching a movie and eating pizza. Ashley said that that evening, their friend Toby White had also come over. One unexpected turn in the conversation came when Ashley got a call from her lawyer. This morning, Tracy called the lawyer and told him to call Ashley and tell her what to do if the police called her. Then, another strange thing took place. To everyone's surprise, Tracy came home and told Ashley she couldn't talk to the detective. His behavior, body language, and facial expressions showed that he was upset and angry. The detectives thought that this made them think that there might have been a plot to hide the truth about Sandy Rozzo's death, and Tracy might have been tied in. Even though Ashley hadn't said anything, the police had a new and important clue. Ashley and Tracy Humphrey said they had ordered pizza the night of Sandy Rozzo's murder as an alibi. The detectives followed this lead and went to the pizza place, where they found the delivery driver and got the receipt. At 10:49 p.m., Tracy used her cell phone to order the pizza. After 15 minutes on July 5th, the pizza was brought to the door. The pizza driver quickly remembered that night and said that the big bald guy had tipped him $20 for a $12 pizza. Police thought Tracy could not have been the killer because his house was 40 minutes away from the crime scene. The detectives were let down by this finding because they thought Tracy was responsible. They didn't get the puzzle pieces to fit together the way they thought they would. Being let down by a setback like a confirmed alibi can be discouraging. Nevertheless, they chose to investigate Ashley's part in what occurred with Sandy in this case. As the detectives looked into the case further, they found an interesting event. Ashley did well in school, was a good person, and had no criminal record. But Sandy reported her car stolen not long before she died. In a strange twist, her burned-out car was later found on a Tampa street. The state fire marshal's office found that the car had been set on fire on purpose. The police looked into the arson and found that Ashley had been to a shooting range in the Tampa area on the same day that her car was set on fire. As it turned out, Ashley Humphrey had been to the range with Tracy Humphrey to learn how to shoot a .22 caliber gun. This information was very important because the .22 caliber gun that killed Sandy was also that one. Detectives started to put all the clues they had together and learn more about Ashley's role in Sandy's death. In order to find out more, they talked to her family. Detectives were told that Ashley's stepfather owned a .22 caliber handgun and had lent it to her so she could learn how to shoot. He asked Ashley to give it back, but she didn't. When the police talked to Ashley's mother, they were sure they were going in the right direction with their investigation. Sandy had been shot 8 times, the mother said Ashley had told her. This detail was important because it hadn't been reported in the news, which means that only police and the shooter would have known about it. As more information came in, it became clear that Ashley had something to do with the crime. But the reason why Sandy was killed was still unknown, though there might have been a link to Tracy. By getting Tracy Humphrey and Ashley Humphrey's phone records, police were able to find out exactly where Tracy's phone was at the time of the crime. The information from the phone towers showed that his phone was close to his home in Brandon. The records showed that Tracy had a valid alibi, but they did not support Ashley's claim that she had been home all night. Outside the Green Iguana, around 4:30 p.m., her phone was on, and she called Tracy several times. After that, at 10:45 p.m., her phone was found near Sandy's house. There was a lot of evidence that Ashley was involved in the crime. Ashley was the main suspect at this point. Detectives thought she wasn't acting alone, though. Because Tracy had a reason to hurt Sandy, the phone records also showed that he was involved in the crime. Now, the only thing that was left to figure out was what part each of them had played in the crime. Toby White, a friend who had been to Tracy and Ashley's house the night Sandy Rozzo was killed, was looked at by detectives as more evidence. She was called in by police to be questioned. Tracy Humphrey thought Toby was a good trainer, so she took him on as a client. If Toby asked her where she was on the evening of July 5th, she first confirmed Tracy's story by saying she had been at his house from 9:30 p.m. to midnight and even brought up the pizza delivery they had ordered. Further review of cell phone records, however, made it clear that Toby was not in the house at that time. Toby was told that her testimony was not consistent. If you lie under oath, you could go to jail. When Toby realized she could be charged with a crime, she changed her story and told the truth. She told the police that she hadn't seen Ashley or Tracy Humphrey that night, and that she had made up an alibi at Tracy's request. Toby realized, after the fact, that Tracy and Ashley had lied to her about their role in the murder. On December 18, 2003, Ashley Humphrey was charged with killing Sandy Rozzo in the first degree. Tracy Humphrey was not allowed to own or use firearms because he was a convicted felon. This meant that he could not handle firearms at a firing range. Because of this, Tracy was arrested and jailed to make sure he couldn't have an effect on Ashley. Detectives hoped that Ashley would tell them more about the crime while she was in jail and away from Tracy, but she didn't. Because Tracy had abused her in the past, she was very afraid that he might have an effect on her. Tracy's past was looked into more by detectives in the hopes of finding something that would make Ashley want to talk. They were able to learn that Tracy had been cheating on Ashley with other people, not just women. As Ashley dug deeper into the truth, she saw that her whole relationship, even her marriage, had been based on lies and deception. While she was in jail, Ashley couldn't get away from the thought that she might have been lied to the whole time. Ashley had to change her plans when she found out that the man she had broken the law for and was willing to spend the rest of her life in prison for was cheating on her. Ashley felt betrayed, so she admitted to killing Sandy and gave police important information about where the murder weapon was. In northeast Hillsborough County, the gun was found. As Ashley talked to investigators more, she learned more and more disturbing information. Tracy had been manipulating her from the start, telling her that he loved her and that Sandy had to go so that they could be together in the future. Tracy told me that he was wrongly accused and that Sandy would go to jail if he testified in court. Ashley also admitted that she had tried to kill Sandy before, weeks before the fatal incident. When these dark secrets were made public, they painted a terrifying picture of manipulation, lying, and betrayal. Ashley had planned to shoot Sandy as she left the bar at first. She waited in the parking lot for Sandy to finish her shift and walk out into the lot to drive home in her own car. To shoot Sandy, Ashley waited until she left the bar and then did it. Ashley was in trouble because she didn't hit Sandy. She hit her own car's mirror. There is evidence that this event could be used against someone. Ashley and Tracy took the car to an empty lot, set it on fire, and then they were done with the evidence. According to the police, they were more sure they could charge Tracy with murder, as more evidence connected him to the crime. Ashley was just a pawn in Tracy's plan to kill Sandy. He used her to carry out his plan. The terrible things that happened were planned by Tracy Humphrey. Sandy would still be alive, and Ashley would not have done what she did without his help. Investigators were able to piece together the last few hours of Sandy Rozzo's life after Ashley confessed. Sandy started working at the Green Iguana at 2:30 p.m. on July 5th, the day of the murder. Ashley was waiting in the parking lot with a .22 caliber handgun that her stepfather had lent her while she worked at the bar. During the whole time, Tracy was always talking to Ashley and planning what she should do. Ashley was very patient while she waited for Sandy to finish her shift. Ashley drove after Sandy when she left the parking lot at 10:45 p.m. At 11:10 p.m., Sandy got home and put her car in the garage. Ashley came in right after her. She began shooting and kept doing so until she ran out of bullets. She fired 8 shots in all. After that, Ashley called Tracy right away to tell him that Sandy had died. The person who brought Tracy pizza was thanked for his service by leaving a nice tip. In exchange for her help, that gave Tracy a reason to lie. In exchange for testifying against Tracy Humphrey, Ashley took a plea deal that put her in prison for 25 years. A lot of people thought Ashley's sentence wasn't fair and thought she should have been given a life sentence instead. Ashley Humphrey was given a 25-year prison sentence on March 10, 2006. After 14 years, she told a shocking truth. Ashley Humphrey told Piers Morgan on ITV's Killer Women that she was the one who thought of the plan to kill Sandy Rozzo, not her husband Timothy Tracy Humphrey, as she had said in court. I suggested, what if she were not to show up in court? Ashley told me. That's where it began, and it got worse from there. I said it first. I'm not sure why I let him into my mind in that way. Ashley could have been given a much harsher sentence if she had lied about the plan from the start and not agreed to help convict her husband. She is in jail at the moment at Gaydon Correctional Institution in Quincy, Florida. On December 13th, 2028, when she will be 46 years old, she will be freed from prison. Timothy Humphrey was found guilty of murder in February 2006. He was given a sentence of life in prison without the chance of parole. He was given an extra 15 years in prison for trying to escape. Because Humphrey was controlling and violent, he thought he could get away with his crimes, but he would spend the rest of his life in prison and eventually die there. This is what everyone in Sandy Rozzo's family wanted to happen. Thanks for coming to look into this case with me. If you like true crime stories, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss one. Leave your thoughts below, and until next time, be careful and aware.